Sam, can you just going to startups? I mean, as you know, we've got a very vibrant startup ecosystem in India. Where is it that a team from India, three super smart engineers with, not 100 million, but let's say 10 million, could actually build something truly substantial?
Look, the way this works is we're going to tell you it's totally hopeless to compete with us on training foundation models. You shouldn't try, and it's your job to try anyway. And I believe both of those things.
China's latest AI breakthrough has leapfrogged the world.
There is a new model that has all of the valley buzzing.
A Chinese research lab has built a competitive model for less than, get this, $6 million.
That's nonsense, okay? They broke in, they stole things. It's got to end because we must stay in the lead.
1985, Guangdong, China. A little boy is born to two primary school teachers. Liang Wenfeng is an exceptional student right from the beginning. He attended one of the top universities in the entirety of China, which is ranked 27th in the top universities of the world, Zhejiang University. He took up a Bachelor of Engineering in Electronic Information Engineering in 2007 and then returned to the same university for his master's. It is while doing his master's and during the worst global financial crisis that his focus started to explore other ventures. He formed a team with his classmates which was used to collect data related to financial markets. This data would be used in training models which would be used in quantitative trading, which is the use of machine learning models which analyze and identify patterns in the market which are used in making decisions of when to buy or sell instead of relying on human judgment which could come with a margin of error. When he finished his master's, he started exploring other fields where the knowledge of AI could be applied, where he ended up failing, therefore choosing to go back to the one place where it did work out, which is when he founded Hangzhou Yakibi Investment Management Company. Trust me, the names get worse. Somehow! Fast forward 3 years later in February of 2016, which is when he and two other classmates founded a hedge fund which went by the name of Ningbo High Flyer Quantitative Investment Management Partnership. Bro, but trust me, it's not as hard as it sounds though. What a hedge fund is that it's an organization that pulls money from mostly high net worth individuals and strives to earn them the highest return possible. This company would go on to be very successful, and by 2019, it was among the top hedge funds in China and had over 10 billion won, which equates to $1.2 million under its management, which shows that it was nowhere near struggling. In the same year, they established High Flyer AI, which was dedicated to research and its basic applications. A year later in 2020, they established Firefly 1, which wasn't an AI but a supercomputer which was focused on deep learning, which cost them approximately 200 million won, which was later replaced by an even better one, Firefly 2, which cost them even more money, 1 billion won to be exact. This supercomputer had over 10,000 NVIDIA A100 GPUs, which were obtained before the US imposed restrictions on the exportation of NVIDIA chips to China. In 2021, Liang is said to have bought thousands of NVIDIA GPUs for his AI side project as he was still running High Flyer. This decision was faced with a lot of criticism, especially from his business partners, but he wasn't deterred nonetheless. He had a vision of making something big, something that would be revolutionary and change everything. When he told his idea to his business partners, they thought he was crazy and said that the scope of the project that he had in mind was something that only big corporations like Alibaba or ByteDance, parent company of TikTok, which surprisingly has a very strong AI presence in China, could do. This, however, didn't hold Liang back. He had a vision and he was determined on making it come true. In April of 2023, Liang announced that High Flyer would be pursuing the development of artificial general intelligence and launched DeepSeek. There are three types of AI: ANI, ASI, and AGI. ANI stands for Artificial Narrow Intelligence. This is an AI that is designed to perform specific tasks, for example, face recognition, Google search, or ChatGPT. AGI stands for Artificial General Intelligence. This is an AI that has human-like intelligence and can be able to adapt across any field and domain. This type of AI doesn't exist yet, and it's what Liang sought to create. The last category is ASI, standing for Artificial Super Intelligence, and this is an AI that has intelligence that is beyond the best human experts in any field and domain. As you can probably guess, this AI doesn't also exist, but it's still something to keep in mind. The same month that DeepSeek was announced, Liang mentioned that Highfly had acquired 10,000 NVIDIA A100 GPUs before the US imposed restrictions on the exportation of AI chips to China. This number has been very hard to verify and we don't know the true number for sure. This is also where he said that DeepSeek was getting its funding from Highflyer. A month later, DeepSeek was changed to become its own company, which was followed by them trying to get funding from venture firms where they got declined. It is said that the reason for this is that the venture firms felt like the investment wouldn't be able to generate them an exit in a short period of time. In November of 2023, DeepSeek released its first model, DeepSeek Coder, which was specifically for coding activities. A month later, they released their first large language model, DeepSeek LLM, which they updated in the following year in May 2024 with DeepSeek V2, which changed everything for them, especially in China. This AI caused a price war in China where the big corporations like ByteDance and Alibaba were all in a race to reduce their prices so as to keep up with the competition that DeepSeek V2 had brought. The model was cheap and open source, meaning that its code was available for anyone to modify and use. It was evident that DeepSeek was onto something, and they knew this too. And because DeepSeek was solely focused on research, they were able to avoid most of the government regulations, which would include control by the government on the information they put out there and handle. But what was making it that good? Well, this went back to how they were training their models, and how was that exactly? They were using a little something called reinforcement learning, and if I were to explain it simply, and this is a really diluted way of explaining it, is where if we were to look at the training process as a game, the model was being trained to achieve the best results, where if it got the right answer or made the right decision, it was given a reward, or if it got the wrong answer or failed to make the right decision, it was given a penalty. An example of how this could be seen in action is in a game of chess, where every move a player makes has a consequence it carries, and the goal of the model is to achieve the best results in the least amount of moves. This is different from how other models were being trained because for them they were using a different process called supervised learning, where in supervised learning we deal with labeled data, which is data whose output has already been defined, and the job of the model is to identify patterns between the input and the output so as to be able to make the most accurate predictions on new data. Other models were being trained using unsupervised learning, where in unsupervised learning the data used is unlabeled, which means that only the input is provided and the goal of the system is to identify patterns within the data without any help. This is especially useful in systems that need to find or identify anomalies in a pool of data. So as we said, DeepSeek used reinforcement learning to train their models, which allowed them to reason, and during the development they first made the model R10 and used reinforcement learning to train it, and when this model was put in a benchmark test against other models, it was noticed that its performance continued to improve over time as compared to other O1 models from OpenAI, which had a static performance. However, the first R10 model had some problems. It had trouble communicating its reasoning process, where even at times it ended up mixing languages in its reasoning process, so they decided to make a better one that didn't have this flaw, which ended up in the development of R1. To start it off, they gave it a small subset of labeled data which served as a guiding tool for its reasoning process. Next, they used reasoning-oriented reinforcement learning, where they gave it all types of problems to solve, and just like before, rewarded it for any correct solutions and penalized it for any incorrect ones. And so as to cater for the language inconsistency, they introduced a language consistency reward, where just like other rewards, they give it a reward for maintaining a single language, and because reinforcement learning is aimed at maximizing the rewards, it stuck to a single one so as to maximize the rewards that it was getting. In December of 2024, they released DeepSeek V3 just 6 months after its predecessor, DeepSeek V2. This release would come to set the pace for the events that would soon follow to shake the world.
All right, now it is time for Tech Check, and today let's talk about AI, but not in the way that you all think, because there is a new model that has all of the valley buzzing.
The release of DeepSeek AI from a Chinese company should be a wake-up call for our industries that we need to be laser focused on competing to win, because we have the greatest scientists in the world.
Shares in the advanced computer chip maker NVIDIA plunged overnight after investors became concerned by a cheap Chinese artificial intelligence program called DeepSeek.
But wait, how did this all happen because of this one model? AI models come and go all the time. What made this one different? Well, A few reasons. First of all, the company that released said model was a Chinese company, and we all know the type of competition that the two countries have, not to mention the fact that everyone thought the US had the lead on the AI recent progress to this point. Second of all, DeepSeek was able to train their models using far less money and resources than the Western companies, $5.8 million to be exact, compared to the $100 billion spent by OpenAI to train their own models. Third reason is that DeepSeek R1 was open sourced and immensely cheaper than what OpenAI was offering, and I don't think you understand how far much cheaper it was. So for developers who wanted to use OpenAI's models, say the O1 model, for 1 million input tokens they would have to pay $15, and for 1 million output tokens they would have to pay $60, which is insane. Tokens are a chunk of text which represent words or characters in a language. For example, cat could be 1 token and artificial intelligence could be 2 tokens. Input tokens involve the model reading and understanding the text you provide, while output tokens involve the model generating new text output from the input provided. Now here's where things start to get crazy. DeepSeek R1 model, which is DeepSeek's reasoning model, cost only 55 cents for 1 million input tokens and $2.19 for 1 million output tokens, compared to the $15 and $60 from OpenAI. This caused people on the internet to freak out, and a very special kind of people got affected. If you've been following keenly, you might have heard me mention the name Nvidia a couple of times throughout the progress of this video. You see, Nvidia had been the biggest beneficiary of the AI race. This is because their chips have been the one used in the training of these models, especially for DeepSeek. And as you heard me mention, when the investors heard that DeepSeek was able to train their models using far less money and using lower quality chips unlike the ones that Western companies had, they started to lose confidence in Nvidia and other AI companies and started to sell off their shares. This led to a major drop in stock value by various AI companies, with these losses peaking at around $1 trillion, with the major losers being Nvidia. But this was only the beginning, because as much as this is still a developing story, a lot has happened since. So what was the response by the US? OpenAI made a couple changes and developments which, even though they wouldn't admit, were definitely influenced by AI. For starters, they made a hasty release of OpenAI Operator, which is an AI agent that can be able to perform tasks on the web. Next up, OpenAI and Microsoft launched investigations into DeepSeek stealing their data, which was pretty interesting and ironic because OpenAI pretty much scraped the internet for any data they could find, regardless or not it was publicly available. So it was a pretty interesting argument that this person stole my thing, which I also stole from someone else. You see, like, it was pretty funny, but they were onto something because of two reasons. In the initial days, when DeepSeek was asked who it was, it used to say GPT-4, and according to OpenAI's terms of service, they don't allow you to use output from their models to train another model which could be used to compete against them. Something else that they did in response is that they started to offer the O3 mini model, their reasoning model, for free to users, which was previously behind a paywall, and also added a reasoning option in their chat of their models. The US government also made a response to DeepSeek, where they claimed that DeepSeek was using stolen chips which had been acquired after the US had already imposed restrictions on the exportation of chips to China. There have also been criticisms that the $5.8 million training cost might not be true, but this claim is yet to be verified and we don't know the true number for sure. Something else that just came up as I was making this video is that the US is proposing a bill which suggests potential fine and jail time of up to 20 years for anyone who downloads the DeepSeek app, which is totally insane. In my opinion, it's totally just insane, but it's still a bill at this point, so we're still yet to see where that goes. So subscribe if you want me to make a short on that to update you guys on what happens. Another question that came up is that, is it safe to use DeepSeek, since by accessing it from their website, you're having your data sent over to China, and as they say in their privacy policy, this is where they store your data. This is concerning because data and privacy laws are different there from where you might be accessing the service from. A better way of accessing it is, if you have the resources, run the model themselves on your computer, or a distilled version of them anyway. A distilled version is a model that is trained from the output from another model, where even in some instances it might end up being better than the trainer model itself. If you don't have the capacity to run the models themselves, like me here, you can opt to use another intermediary who have done the hosting for you. Question: is Facebook getting ruined by AI? Click right here to watch that video, subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.